The world of country music recently lost one of its brightest voices, Jeannie Seely, who passed away at the age of 85. Known as Miss Country Soul, Seely was not just a singer, but also a pioneer, a mentor, and one of the strongest voices at the Grand Ole Opry for more than 50 years. When the news of her passing broke, it left fans, fellow musicians, and even historians of country music stunned and heartbroken. People immediately began to reflect not only on her long career but also on the final months of her life, which had been quieter and more mysterious than usual. Some had noticed signs that Seely was struggling, though few could imagine how close the end was. Her funeral, which gathered unexpected faces and tributes, revealed even more about her life, her friendships, and her lasting impact. What shocked people the most was not just who showed up to honor her, but also the messages shared that gave fans a deeper look into her private struggles and her deep love for music. Her passing wasn't just the end of a life, it felt like the closing of a chapter in country music history itself. To understand why her death hit so hard, one must look back at her story, her rise to fame, and her role in shaping the Opry into what it is today. Jeannie Seely's journey began in Titusville, Pennsylvania, where she was born in 1940. From the start, she loved music. Growing up in a small town, her life could have easily followed a simple path, but Seely had bigger dreams. She was inspired by the traditional harmonies of country music, and by the time she reached her early 20s, she knew she had to chase her passion. With determination, she packed her bags and moved to Nashville, the home of country music, where countless dreamers went in search of stardom. Unlike many who struggled endlessly, Jeannie managed to break through quickly. In 1966, her big moment came when she released Don't Touch Me, a song filled with raw emotion and heartbreak. This wasn't just another hit, it was a career-defining song that put her name on the map and gave a stronger voice to women in country music at a time when female singers often struggled to be taken seriously. The success of this song brought her recognition, respect, and an invitation to join the Grand Ole Opry. Just 1 year later, in 1967, she became one of the youngest women ever inducted, cementing her role as not just a performer but a trailblazer. With her wit, her signature blonde hair, and her powerful stage presence, she became a fan favorite, proving she was far more than a one-hit wonder. Jeannie Seely's name will always be tied to the Grand Ole Opry. She wasn't just a performer there, she became part of its very foundation. Over the decades, she did more than sing. She made history by being one of the first women to regularly host segments of the show. In a world where men still dominated the stage, Seely spoke up for women, pushed for equality, and stood firm in her beliefs, even when it upset the traditional old guard. Her humor and charm earned her the nickname Seely You Later Girl, a playful nod to her fearless personality and her refusal to conform to expectations. Beyond her personal performances, she supported countless younger artists who came to the Opry, mentoring them, sharing advice, and even helping to shape their careers. She was a link between the old traditions of country music and the new generations trying to make their mark. Fans loved her because she felt like family, warm, approachable, and honest. Other artists admired her because she broke barriers and created space for women to shine. Even in her later years, Seely continued to perform, often standing proudly in dazzling gowns, proving that age could never dim her passion for music or her commitment to her audience. As strong and vibrant as Jeannie Seely appeared on stage, her final years were marked by struggles that she kept private. For decades, she had been a regular fixture at the Grand Ole Opry, performing with energy and confidence. But in the year before her passing, fans began noticing changes. Her voice was still rich and emotional, but it carried less power than before. Her usual witty banter between songs seemed quieter. Her schedule, once filled with shows, tours, and charity events, began to slow down. A fan who attended her last Opry performance wrote that Seely looked tired, like she was holding something and that she wasn't ready to tell us. In truth, Seely was facing health battles she chose not to share publicly. Friends later revealed that she had been struggling with chronic respiratory problems, possibly COPD or related illnesses, though she never confirmed details. She did not want sympathy or pity, she wanted people to remember her singing. In fact, she often told close friends that she wanted her fans to recall her voice, not her hospital stays. Her quiet strength during these final months showed how deeply she valued her art and her audience. Jeannie Seely's last public performance was one that fans will never forget. On a warm April evening, she walked onto the stage of the Grand Ole Opry wearing a sparkling blue gown. Though visibly exhausted, she smiled and sang one of her favorite songs, "Can I Sleep in Your Arms Tonight?" Her voice cracked with emotion, not from weakness, but from the weight of what she was feeling. When the final note echoed across the Opry house, she didn't bow and exit as usual. Instead, she stood silently, gazing out at the audience, as though she was taking in the moment one last time. Many now believe this was her way of saying goodbye, though at the time, no one realized it. There was no announcement of retirement, no farewell tour. After that night, her appearances grew fewer, and fans began to wonder what was happening behind the scenes. A grainy fan video even captured a moment when she briefly lost her balance on stage, which she brushed off with a smile. Looking back, that moment feels more like a sign of the struggles she was hiding. Despite her illness, she left the stage on her own terms, singing, smiling, and standing in the Opry circle she loved so much. On July 22, 2025, the world received the heartbreaking news: Jeannie Seely had passed away peacefully in her sleep at her Nashville home. The announcement was simple and quiet, almost too quiet for someone of her importance. Fans were surprised that the Grand Ole Opry did not immediately post a tribute. In fact, for several hours after her death was confirmed, her name was still listed on the Opry's schedule of upcoming performers. This silence upset many of her loyal fans, who flooded social media with questions and anger. "She gave you 55 years, and this is how you treat her," one fan wrote. The Opry finally released a statement almost 12 hours later, calling her the heart and humor of the Opry family, but by then, the delay had already sparked speculation about possible tensions behind the scenes. Some suggested that Seely's outspokenness over the years, especially her criticism of how female and traditional artists were treated, may have created friction. While no proof of conflict was ever given, many fans felt the delayed tribute did not reflect the respect she deserved. Still, within days, the Opry corrected its mistake by hosting one of the most emotional tributes in its history. Just 3 days after her passing, the Grand Ole Opry staged a powerful tribute. Instead of its usual lively opening, the lights dimmed and a single spotlight shone on the wooden circle at the center of the stage where Seely had stood for so many years. A string quartet began to play her hit song "Don't Touch Me," and the audience fell completely silent. Then, a recording of Jeannie's voice filled the room, taken from a past live performance: "When you feel like crying, sing. When you're scared, sing louder." The audience stood, many wiping away tears. The night grew even more emotional when Reba McEntire, who was not scheduled to appear, walked onto the stage dressed in black. With tears in her eyes, she sang a soft, heartbreaking version of "Can I Sleep in Your Arms Tonight?" Afterwards, Reba said only one sentence: "She raised us. She raised this stage, and tonight we sing for her." That moment became one of the most unforgettable tributes in Opry history, honoring Seely not with speeches, but with music and silence, the two things she loved most. Jeannie Seely's funeral was just as unique as her career. It was held at the Ryman Auditorium, often called the Mother Church of Country Music, where Seely had performed for decades. But unlike many somber ceremonies, this was a celebration. Attendees were asked not to wear black suits or traditional mourning clothes but to come in boots and rhinestones, just the way Seely would have wanted it. Dolly Parton, unable to attend in person due to health reasons, sent a heartfelt video message, calling Jeannie her sister in sass and promising they would sing together again in the next life. Loretta Lynn's family also shared a letter revealing that before her own death, Loretta and Jeannie had made a pact to hold the door open for the next generation of women in country music. Those words, "Hold the door open," were printed on the funeral program, leaving attendees with a powerful reminder of Seely's legacy. The funeral was emotional but uplifting, filled with laughter, memories, and, of course, music. Clips shared later showed just how deeply loved she was by both fans and fellow artists. Even after her funeral, Jeannie Seely's story wasn't finished. her estate announced the release of a posthumous album titled One Last Song. For years, she had recorded tracks with friends and collaborators, hoping to release them for her 85th birthday. The album, featuring duets with Willie Nelson, Vince Gill, Alison Krauss, and younger stars like Kelsea Ballerini, will now serve as her final gift to fans. Beyond music, her estate also announced the creation of the Jeannie Seely Foundation for Women in Country Music, a nonprofit dedicated to mentoring young female artists and giving them the opportunities Seely had fought for her entire life. As for the Opry, the question remains, who will take her hosting role? Names like Ashley McBryde, Lainey Wilson, and Casey Musgraves have been suggested, but many fans argue that her place should remain empty for a while as a symbol of respect. No matter what decision is made, one thing is clear: Jeannie Seely's influence will continue to guide country music for generations to come. She may be gone, but her voice, her spirit, and her fight for fairness will never be forgotten. When we talk about strong voices that shaped country music, Jeannie Seely's name always stands tall. Born in 1940 in Titusville, Pennsylvania, Jeannie grew up far from the big lights of Nashville, but she carried a dream that could not be ignored. From an early age, she had a love for performing, singing at local events and radio shows. Her determination and talent eventually brought her to Nashville, the home of country music. By the mid-1960s, she had signed with Monument Records, where her career truly began to shine. Jeannie's music was different. She brought an emotional style that made people feel her songs deeply. When she sang, listeners felt as if she was telling their own stories. That powerful ability to connect made her one of the most respected artists in country music. One of Jeannie's biggest breakthroughs came in 1966 with the song Don't Touch Me. Written by Hank Cochran, who later became her husband, the song was more than just a hit, it was a cultural moment. The emotional depth and honesty of the lyrics touched audiences across America, and Jeannie's heartfelt delivery turned it into a timeless classic. The song won her a Grammy Award for Best Female Country Vocal Performance, making her one of the few women in country at the time to achieve such recognition. That award was more than a personal victory, it was also a step forward for women in the industry. In an era when female artists often struggled to be taken seriously, Jeannie proved that women could not only compete but also lead in the genre. The song remains a classic and is still considered one of the most powerful ballads in country music history. Jeannie Seely is also known as the Lady of the Grand Ole Opry. In 1967, she became a member of the Opry, one of the highest honors in country music. But her influence went beyond just singing on that famous stage. Jeannie broke traditions when she insisted on wearing miniskirts and modern clothing at the Opry during the late 1960s, a time when most female performers were expected to dress conservatively. While it might sound simple today, back then it was a bold statement of independence. Jeannie wanted to express herself fully, not just through her songs, but also in how she presented herself. By doing so, she opened the doors for future generations of female country singers to express their individuality. Her presence at the Opry brought new energy, showing that women could be modern, bold, and still deeply traditional at the same time. While many know Jeannie Seely as a singer, her songwriting is equally important. She wrote songs that were recorded by other great artists, including Merle Haggard, Dottie West, and Ernest Tubb. Her lyrics often touched on real human emotions, love, heartbreak, and resilience. She had a gift for putting feelings into words in a way that made listeners nod and say, "That's exactly how I feel." Even when she was not the one singing the song, her words gave strength to others. Her songwriting career proved that she was not just a performer but a storyteller, shaping the sound of country music behind the scenes. Jeannie also encouraged younger artists, offering guidance and support, which made her a mentor figure in Nashville. Many female artists who came after her have spoken about how her bravery and openness inspired them to take chances in their own careers. Even today, Jeannie Seely continues to perform at the Grand Ole Opry, making her one of its longest-serving and most beloved members. She has kept her voice strong and her presence alive in a way that very few can. Over the years, she has released multiple albums, written books, and collaborated with countless artists. But beyond all her achievements, her true legacy lies in the way she changed country music for women. She proved that a woman could stand on stage with the same confidence as a man, write songs that mattered, and remain true to herself while doing so. Fans love her not only for her music but also for her honesty, humor, and resilience. Jeannie Seely is a living reminder that country music is not just about sound, it's about heart, courage, and truth.